This module is about hierarchical categories. This is a very important concept to understand since it's widely used in infoMAX, and it's something that you will be interacting with a lot, especially as you track opportunities in the max funnel categories. Now, to help in the visualization, I found it most helpful to actually look at a paper form which the hierarchical categories emulate. What we're looking at here is a typical paper quote form. Now, the overview information, company address, both of the quoting company and the company being quoted to is included up here. You know, the date, things like that. This line as well, term, salesperson, job number, things like that, are all on the top part of the hierarchy. The lower part are the actual line items with the part number, item number listed. I call them line items. Description, unit price, any sort of discount, the line total. Those are all on the lines. So it's very important to have the correct visualization of how this works. Now, what we can do in a database is actually open up each of these line items as its own item. And when you open it up and it's just sitting there on its own, you also want to know this header information. So what infoMAX does, it actually copies down the data on the top level and copies it down into the record in the individual line item. You'll understand that more when we actually look at infoMAX. So the different categories where hierarchical categories are used are in the quote category, in the sample category, and then in the opportunity category known as max funnel. So let's look first of all at the quote category. So to open it up, go to this handy viewfinder, and you can find the quote multi-view. Now, a multi-view actually emulates the same idea as well, where the top part of the form is the header information. The bottom part of the form is the line item information. We'll click down here to this nice opportunity here. So United Chemicon is the principal, Sigmatron is the customer, the end customer is Electrolux, and you can see that there's 4 line items, 4 part numbers. So if we open up the project level, and I ask you what form to open up, using the outside sales form, this is the top of the form. Typically, dark blue is used as a convention. Over here you see the blue, over here you see the blue. Here are the actual line items. So this is the quote, these are the quote lines, is the name of the category. Quote is the header category, quote line is the line item category. Now we can open up each of these items, and you see right here, this in the blue, this is the header information copied down to the line item level. Customer, end customer, principal, date, that kind of thing, program name. And then down here is actually the part number, and then the pricing information down here. And again, with the convention of using these next buttons, there's, as you see down here, 4 items, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as we click through them, you can see that actually the part number here changing to 4. And now this button is grayed out here. So I'm going to close this now. And I'll close the project as well. And again, this is a little bit redundant, and but here, up here is the quote forms, individual quote forms, and the quote, the quote multi-view, this lower field, has all of the line items for the highlighted item up here. So if I click down through here, you can see the part numbers changing at the bottom for the corresponding part numbers that go with the quotes. And now we'll look very quickly here at the sample multi-view. Open that up, very similar looking. We see here Aimtron has a Platronics sample request here where 3 different part numbers were sampled. The sample form header, the sample form lines. Again, we open this up. This is the header information. These are the individual line items. Sample request is the category name for the header. Sample line is the category name for the samples. So again, header, part number information. Clicking through them. See the part number changing here. Now the way that account managers will primarily consume this data is in the, like say, the company multi-view. Again, we can look at Aimtron. I typed in Aimtron and that popped up. I can go over to samples. What we're looking at here is individual sample lines. Rather than looking at the individual sample requests, we're looking at the sample lines. So when you open that up, the handy-dandy header information is included in there. The other important thing to think about is that when we report things, either in export things into spreadsheets, spreadsheets are flat; they're not hierarchical, and so what we see is actually just the data that you see on a sample line, an individual line item. So if it's not in this form, it's not going to make it into the report. Now the main area where you are going to be interacting with infoMAX in a hierarchical level is in the MAX funnel categories, where we have projects on the top and individual part numbers or devices in the line item. Let's go and find here's one with an SMSC and a Tyco device used on this project. So if you open up the project, this is the overall project information, and then we have the line items. Now as you notice here, the project level information will get reported both to SMSC and to Tyco, or TE. So any comments you make up here should not be specific to the individual device, but rather to the project, because this is the top part of the form, the project level. Only make project comments here. Like here is something that goes against it. SMSC is in here. Now, if I go to Tyco Raychem, when this gets reported, this gets copied down and you see SMSC parts. So we're telling Tyco what we're doing with SMSC, and that's not something we want to do. All individual part number comments should be down here below. And this will be gone into more depth when we actually go over the MAX funnel category, because this is the main category that account managers use to input data. Almost everything else that account managers use in infoMAX is you consume data that's already there, that has been imported and input manually by other people. So that concludes the tutorial, the basics of the hierarchical categories.